All right. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to Tuesdays with Peter. And woohoo! After several YouTube buttons and going live and welcoming our awesome guest today. Welcome, Karen.
Thank
So
you.
delighted, so delighted. Let me just do one thing here, if I can share my PowerPoint. See if we've got that operating properly. Yes, yes, yes. I'm going to get rid of all these other screens that I am no longer in requirement or needs to.
Peter, if you can make me the co-host so we can record.
Oh, that would be a really good idea. So let's start recording. Well, let's start getting Cello. Make co-host. There it is. Thank you for that, Cello. Okay, so welcome to Tuesdays with Peter. Again. And welcome our special guest author, Karen McCurry, that wrote this awesome story for me for the Positively Brilliant Self-Mastery book back in 2008, published 2009. I know it's going to look backwards, but that's okay. There it is right there. So let me get to this. Today we talk about principle number 12. You live in alignment with your innate values. So last week we talked about finding them, articulating them, rediscovering them, writing them down for yourself, and basically uncovering them from the values that have come from external places, right? From my upbringing, my culture, my family of origin, my country of origin, my maleness, my Americanness, my Caucasianness, and all of that, right? So those are all external stuff. And so last week we went into actually discovering those things for myself. Let me do this just real quick here. Spotlight, there we go. So this week we're talking about how do I live them? How do I actually live these things or bring these values into my life consciously, intentionally, or not, as the case may be. So Karen McCurry I've known forever. And we haven't talked forever, so it's a thrill for me to see you and to have you in the room with us today. I'm going to do a little bit of preliminaries, kind of the background from a couple of excerpts from the book, and then I'll have you actually read your own story. And this is always fascinating for me in terms of, so how's it been since then? And so we'll get into that, but I'm thrilled beyond measure. Thrilled beyond measure.
It's a delight to be here with you, Peter. Really is.
Thank you, and again, thank you. And if I forget to say thank you afterwards, thank you again. Yeah, it's just brilliant. All right, so I can skip this part. Principle 12, living in alignment with your innate values. And I love, everybody knows how much I love quotes. This one comes from Joseph Campbell, who is famous for his follow your bliss. That's the same Joseph Campbell, follow your bliss. And it's such a poignant and beautiful reminder. But here's another quote that he's attributed to. The world is full of people that have stopped listening to themselves. And what he's referring to, I believe, is that sense of core self, authentic self, positively brilliant self, that inner self. Or have listened only to their neighbors to learn what they ought to do, how they ought to behave, and what the values are they should be living for. Again, he makes a great quote here in terms of what most people are driven by, conditioned by, the external values of life. And it's a shame. Well, that's maybe too harsh. It's a shame. It's sad. It saddens my heart. And so Joseph and I, unbeknownst to him, are really speaking about the call to be oneself. And the beingness, as we talked about last week, comes from a set of core values. Yeah? All right. So here's what I write about in the book, right out of the book. I haven't changed a single word in presenting this. Now that you know your innate values, you have the opportunity to consciously live your own innate values. The majority of my life was centered on doing. I was doing chores around the house. I was doing my schoolwork. I was doing my job. I had created a tornado of doing. Along the way, I was rewarded with the label of overachiever. I was proud, but at the age of 35, exhausted. I told my friends I should be allowed to retire since I had done the equivalent of 20 years of study plus 50 years of work, and I felt 70 years old. Right now, this is at 35. I'm 74 now. I'm more alive now than I was at 35, guaranteed. Healthier, happier, more in tune with who I am, all of the above. Now, back to this, back to what I wrote. By living in alignment with my innate values of creative, connected, thriving, retreat, and free to express. Do you get the sense of free to express? I've claimed that one big time. I now teach, coach, and write about what you are reading right now. I could not have conceived of doing any of these before knowing and living in alignment with my own innate values. It's been a rebirth. It's been amazing. It's been an amazing journey. And that's what I want for you. That's what I want for 7.5 billion people on the planet. Living my own innate values instead of living adopted values from other people means as decisions or planning comes up, I can look at my innate values to determine which choice will most honor them being my innate values. Most people have lived the majority of their lives unconsciously following other people's values. Even when people successfully live aligned with other people's values, they experience emptiness inside. Most people are not conscious about living through others' values. They cannot articulate this until months later when they have discovered their own innate values and have had the experience of honoring and aligning their own innate values in every part of their lives. Life becomes an easier flow and significantly more fulfilling. It just does. So that brings me to our awesome guest today and beautiful author of My Life as an Old Typewriter. And I love this. And I was actually rehearsing part of this, not knowing that for sure you're going to be here, Karen, in terms of the cha-ching or the whoop-sing. and then I'm thinking of the whole generations, the three generations. So most recently they go, what are you talking about? A typewriter and a return and a which? Anyhow, I'm thrilled, loving. Let me get you pinned here and out of this. I'm going to have the storyline up here for people to follow.
I have it in front of me, Peter.
All right. Well, I'm going to turn it over to you and take us through this beautiful story.
Thank you so much. One day I woke up at the age of 42, and there they were. Dishes, diapers, laundry, cleaning. Ding, zhoop, carriage return. Dishes, diapers, laundry, cleaning, ding, zhoop. This was my life, and I said to myself, so this is it? By existing only in response to others, I had forgotten about me. For survival, I had sedated a part of who I was. It was a piece of me so full of warmth and caring. It was the voice desperate to contribute that was screaming to be heard. It was the mind dulled from inactivity, too tired to think. Ding, zhoop. There seemed to be no room for me. Responsibilities to my family and home were all consuming. It seemed I was sinking. I had so much, but felt so little. My days were filled with loneliness and resentment. I saw no choice. Ding! Zhoop. One day, during a moment of anxiety and confusion, I experienced a threatening fear. Panicked, I pulled out my values and sitting quietly, I read them over and over again. My values are love, truth, maternal, vision, and journey. And then I remembered I had all the answers. I had the answers all along. My truth was within, and by loving myself and nurturing what I have always known to be true, I found direction. I was free to begin my journey. I began to explore. My brain stretched from its long slumber and started to learn. I threw my arms back, took a deep breath, and started to grow. Today, I'm preparing to launch my new business, Singularity. My purpose is to support other moms as they return to work. I encourage self-valuing and the discovery of choice. It is with a warm heart that I extend my hand. I still have my old typewriter, but it is with cutting-edge technology that I embrace who I choose to be.
Oh my God, you are living testimony that I have one less person out of the 7.5 billion to actually for them to know and live and celebrate who they were created to be. And God bless you, Karen. God bless you, Karen.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you.
So how's it gone since then? How's the old typewriter? Do you get back into that routine? Has it pulled you back into that mentality, or has it been?
Well, I think that was a big turning point for me in my life. I think that I sort of stepped out of this old way of being. I have certainly, life is not a straight line, right? Not for me, anyway,
no,
right?
Not by any
And
means.
so twists and turns, my practice, for example, is no longer called Singularity. I went back to actually an original thought of New Insights coaching, which is really what it's about for me, which again is just like another example of coming back to myself.
Oh.
I'm not working with women returning to work. I'm working with women who I'm supporting to stay connected to themselves as they come up and out personally and professionally. I mean, today, listening to you speak just a moment ago, I was like, oh my gosh, look how perfectly aligned all of this is. I mean, really, my practice is really based on having women stay connected to their core values, and what I refer to as referencing an internal barometer versus an external barometer, and all that flows from that. And, as I work with people, like, it's so easy to see how when they are out of alignment with their values, the discord, the dissatisfaction, the struggle, the obstacles, and just that general disconnect. And when they begin to start coming back to themselves, how they see all of that beginning to ease, and the flow comes in, and the connectivity in life, and how things just start to make sense. And right, like, changes like this in life, I haven't found, a snap of the finger, and things just happen. And I haven't found the perfect person either. So if you found them, please introduce me, right? And so it really is very much a journey, and it is a choice, and it is an effort that I know I make for myself, and people that I work with make for themselves, to stay on that path of connection to themselves. And I guess continually trying to quiet that external noise. There's so much that comes at us, right? Lots of expectation, lots of judgments. And how do we learn to kind of practice teasing that out of that internal conversation and just have it be our voice? I like to say often it's like Dorothy clicking her heels, right? She just needed to click her heels to come home. And I think it is about coming home to ourselves. And so, it's been wonderful. It's been a wonderful evolution for me. I think that, at the time, my boys were, 4 and 6 months old, and it was a lot. It was a lot for me. Parenting was a huge, huge adjustment for me. And I think that this story is really about, I was living my values, but in just a very singular way. I wasn't like, yes, I was very dedicated to my family and my parenting and my boys, but I just was forgetting about me and the love for myself, living my truth, taking care of myself, my vision for myself in terms of what I see for myself, the plans that I make to achieve those visions, and the journey that I'm on. I've just put myself to the side and wasn't working for me. That was an example, I guess, of a way that I was out of alignment with myself.
Yeah, I hear that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I also hear the richness of have the things in life evolved? Yeah, right. My kids are older. I'm wiser. I'm working with maybe a little bit different type of individual that's ready to know themselves, that's ready to do that deeper work.
Yeah.
But the fundamentals have not changed. I don't hear anything that says, and I'll ask you the question instead of assuming, have any of your core values changed?
Not at all.
Not
Not at all.
interesting.
And I do recall from, our work together years ago that there was room for them to evolve and for them to change, right? 'Cause we never know, right? Perspective.
Sure.
And the truth of who I am has held steady and strong and solid the entire time. This is who I am. This is my truth.
Yeah. I get that. I get that question all the time from new students of, well, do these change when I change jobs, or will these change with a new relationship, or these change? My answer to that is basically no.
Right.
If you've gone down to the root source, that deep dive that I know that you went on many years ago to access those things, or to re-access those things, and to articulate them, they typically don't change, or at least not a whole lot, or at least the essence of them don't change. It may have a new word in there, but and I hear that shining through. I hear that shining through your joy of life, your excitement, your contribution to your fellow humankind that work with you, that find you to do the same kind of work that you did yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. Peter, the other thing that I would add to that, right? There's a connection to my values, and it really was you, and I have to credit you with offering me a learning model that changed my life. And that's the inspired learning model. And please, speak a bit, about it as you like. But for me, it was the first time to be in a space, whether it a learning environment or otherwise, where I didn't need to worry about ridicule. I didn't need to worry about judgment. I was free to be me, no matter what that was. And I, prior to that, had spent a lifetime constantly feeling measured, constantly feeling like I had to moderate myself in some way. And which also sort of led to, am I enough? Am I enough as I am? And I think that that's a really, really powerful piece, because in a world so filled with expectation and judgment, it can be hard to get out of that mindset, to think like, yeah, you are enough. Yeah, everything you need is within, and that is absolutely just right for you. You don't need to worry about what other people think. Hugely, hugely powerful. And I really see how beautifully that shows up, not only for myself, it is the gift that continues to keep giving for me, but I think also for my clients. They are in a space here, they are safe. I tell them all the time, there is nothing that you're going to tell me that's going to have me falling out of my chair. It hasn't happened yet. And again, I haven't met the perfect person, so don't you worry. I just want to help them to be able to be in their truth, because when they're in their truth, when I'm in my truth, I have all the information I need, right, to move myself forward. So I again, I think it's being in alignment with your values and also the safety of the space. That combination has really been life-changing for me.
Wow. Well, I received that, and thank you for that reflection. My life as well has been changed because of that model.
Yeah.
When judgment is not in the room, then it's okay to explore. It's okay to stumble. It's okay to try stuff out. It's okay to I wonder if, and allow that to be experimented with, trial and error. And well, maybe that didn't work so well. Maybe I'll try a little bit differently. But I have the freedom to do that.
Right.
The freedom to learn. The freedom to learn, as Carl
Yeah.
Um,
And to be fully supported, to be acknowledged.
and to be, yeah.
Acknowledged. We all want to be acknowledged. I think I know I do.
Yeah, well, that reinforces it. It allows the individual to try stuff out, and to be celebrated for, hey, awesome try. How was that for you? What was your experience? I think that felt pretty good. I think I want to do more of that, or yeah, maybe not quite there, but I know that that's not the way for me to go about it, and let me try something different, and having the freedom to do that.
Yeah.
It's we're going to do a whole series on inspired learning. We haven't done that one yet in the last year and a half. I've been waiting for that, the inspired learning, after this, probably the book principles that we go through in the next couple of months, and then probably get into that in the fall of this year even.
Yeah, count me
But
in.
thank you for thank you for sharing about your experience of that. I haven't introduced that to the public audience yet.
Okay.
Coach for Life graduates understand what you're talking about and going, yay, Karen, yes. So the thing that struck me, though, in terms of what you're doing now with the women that you're coaching and working with, is you said, both for myself and for the people that I'm working with, there's that sense of joyousness that starts being realized, starts getting experienced when they are in alignment with who they're created to be, right? Their core values, their innate values. And when they are not being themselves, or they're sucked into trying to be somebody else to in my words, to satisfy the outside world, that yes, I'm a good girl, yes, I'm a good woman, yes, I'm a good mother, yes, I'm a good worker, yes, I'm a good executive, then they start getting awry in terms of their inner chemistry, their inner satisfaction of life starts eroding. I'm going to, again, my word, because they're not being themselves. So can you say a little bit more about that in terms of your experiences without divulging any confidentialities?
Of course, yeah. I think that when I find my clients out of alignment with their values, there's, as I said earlier, more room for obstacles. There's more struggle. And then I also find that my clients are struggling with more stress, anxiety, a lack of clarity of like, what do I do? How do I handle this? And it's sort of a combination of disconnection. So they're behaving in a way that is really satisfying that external barometer, other people's expectations and their values. So there's like that kind of feeling that goes on inside, right? Yeah. And then layered on top of it, there's this anxiety and stress. And I feel like, I certainly know for myself, and I'm seeing it with my clients, that the more the anxiety, the more the stress, the greater the difficulty in connecting to oneself. It's just too noisy. It's too difficult to just easily and gently settle into ourselves. Life flows more. There is more joy. It's a beginning. It's sort of like, and now we begin. And as we start to recognize these things, sort of the steps are sort of recognizing, noticing, and that's a very, it's a fragile place, I think, for my clients. I know for myself as well, where we're just sort of discovering, and I'm very careful to make sure that there's a lot of acknowledging of, there's no right or wrong here. We're just learning. And this is great information. They're doing a great job. And then once we can begin to see what's happening now, we can begin unpacking and exploring, well, what would you like it to be like? And what would that feel like? And what would that give you? It's, and right. Then they start to get that buy-in of like, oh, it can be different. It doesn't have to be this way. And I get to design it too. And then we can begin exploring that, really outlining that, having a really rich image of what that is. And then we begin to move towards like, well, what are the tools? What are the things that are going to support me to get there? What's the scaffolding I need at this moment in my life to help me be connected to myself, to move me in the direction I want to? And I always say, like, that scaffolding is going to continually change. Today, that's what you need. This week, this month, however long, I don't know, we'll have to see, I guess, right? And then it will evolve and it will shift, and it's a practicing, again, with support and acknowledgement.
Beautiful. Yeah. So kind of the bottom line for me that I'm hearing is that the woman becomes more self-empowered.
Yes.
Well, woman, man, the human being that is going through that process that you just beautifully described.
Yeah.
The more I am honoring myself, the stronger I am to be myself, the stronger I am to show up and have my voice heard. I know that's a huge issue that I keep hearing from a lot of women and a lot of human beings. It's not just a female thing, but I'm not heard, or I'm not speaking up, or I'm afraid to speak up, or it's not okay to speak up. And so the antidote to that, male or female, be yourself. Voice what's true, your truth. And when here's my experience. I know I'll check to see if it's been your experience, is that as a human being, yes, this is a continuous thing. All right. It's not like, okay, yeah, I did that work 20 years ago, and I haven't done anything since. That's not the way I've experienced this work. It's like, okay, I have to keep reminding Peter, okay, here's your values, Peter. Are you living these values according to, in this situation? Maybe not so much in that one. So it's continuous, and it's faster and easier for me to get back to that place of self. Inner self, innate values. Okay, yes, I know the value of that. I know the power of that. I know that reclaiming that every day will support me in my daily challenges for today. Thank you very much. And I have a quicker, faster way of getting back to self, innate core value self.
Right.
That allows me to do what I'm doing right now, to be public, to be open, to be vulnerable, to be, to maybe be judged, but it's like, it doesn't impact me like it used to. It's just like, I get what you think I'm nuts here, but
Right.
I know this is my reality, and I want to voice that reality. So after a long that, two questions. One is, how do you remind yourself, or how do you come back to those sense of innate values that you said earlier haven't really changed, but the process of coming back to those, or employing those, or reminding yourself of those things, is there certain techniques that you have used that you found to be successful?
Right. Wait.
Question number one. And question number two is, when you do that, do you find yourself in a more powerful position to deal with life? Right.
Yeah, so I did like this because I was like, wait, one question at a time, Peter, because I don't want to forget, but I see the
I know.
I don't want to forget. So for me, and I encourage my clients too, I pay attention to the red flags. And everybody's red flags, I think, are different. For me, the red flag is an increase in anxiety, an increase in feeling like I don't know what to do, what's happening here. And that's when I noticed that I am out of alignment. And I couldn't agree with you more that over the years, it is easier to come back to myself and recognize those red flags, return to my values and say, old friend, hello, I'm back, right? And to come back to myself. And I think also part of my process, and what I encourage others to do, is to remember and recognize that somebody else's judgments are about them. It has nothing to do with me, right? So I'm looking out into the world through the lens of my values, who I am, my life experience, as are other people. So I can show up in a certain way, and you receive it in one way, and Chilo receives it another way, as for the rest of the bazillion people on the planet, right? Once once my being hits somebody else, it's out of my control. No. I have no power over that. I have no control. So reminding myself about that. And when I see, or I worry, or think others are judging me, I know that that's really a reflection of me. I'm judging myself. I'm worrying about, right? And so that's information for me to come back to myself and check in with my judgments and my expectations, and where is that coming from, to tease that out, and to the best of my ability to release it, right? That's noise. That's maybe old baggage. It's noise. It's not in service to me and who I want to be and how I want to show up. And I think that's probably pretty normal and standard for all the humans. Like, I don't know that there's anybody that's arriving at a place where that no longer happens for them. I think that's a continual exercise we have to go through, and that's okay, right? And in the end, if we're able to arrive back at our truth, referencing our internal barometer, mission accomplished, right?
Amen.
I'm good for the day.
Yeah.
Or
Amen.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I love the indicators, the frustration, the aggravation, the disease, not comfortable in my own body, kind of all those are indicators that I'm off track. I'm trying to follow somebody else's guidelines instead of I love your inner barometer, that metaphor.
Yeah. And Peter, the other thing I would say, you're reminding me is that it can be the rumination, it can be the noise in my head, or the conversation that goes in many different directions. And it can also be how I feel in my body. Do I have an ache? Or, I'm very, very sensitive to my body. And so is my back bothering me a little bit? Is my knee bothering me a little bit? Is that pain over here? And to me, that's an indication of maybe this is a good time to meditate, to breathe, to connect to myself and see what can fall away by coming back to myself.
Love that. And it's a premise of Louise Hay's work. God bless her soul. She's left us now, but she's left a legacy of let your body inform you.
Yes.
Let your body, and it's so stunningly simple and yet so stunningly not available to most people on a day-to-day basis. So yeah. I love that reference.
Yeah.
Wow. What advice would you give? And I know you're a coach, you don't give advice because you've been trained by the best. But what advice would you have to people that are not necessarily looking for a coach right now, but are at discomfort within their own body? Mm-hmm. Trying to be a good little girl, trying to be a respected woman, trying to get along in a corporate career that is male dominated or in a world that's male dominated. What would you say to them in terms of their values?
Yeah, I would say that I think an underpinning or at the roots of their tree of life is that they are worth it. They are deserving. They are deserving of everything that they want and that they dream about. And that if they are feeling that discord, or that dissonance, that they are deserving of the time and effort and resources to give that to themselves. Nobody's living in our bodies but us. Right. And what we look like outside to others, or if we meet these markers or whatever, in the end, we're the ones that are inside us and we know how we feel. We know when it's working. We know when it's not working. And so I would say, sometimes it's finding a great coach. Sometimes it's finding a great therapist. I think that both have their place. I often partner with therapists. I refer clients out all the time, and I think each has their place. And I personally, partner with an amazing therapist, and we're supporting this one client, for example, moving forward, but we're coming from very, very different places and doing really different work. But I think it's valuing yourself. Wow. Valuing yourself, really knowing that you are worth the investment. You're deserving of it. You are deserving of it.
God, I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. I'll come at it from a little bit different angle, but I get 100% that every human being is worth being your original self.
Yeah.
The other perspective of this is, frankly, the world needs you to be your original self. Mm. There are people out there that aren't receiving the value of your awesomeness because you are shrinking. You are not speaking up. You are not claiming the magnificence, the powerfulness, the message that you have to give to those that are around you that desperately need you. And they need you to be the innate, value self.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so please, 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 I know that someone put in the chat box already that the link to CoreSELFie, and CoreSELFie.com, CoreSELFie.com. If you don't have access to the chat box, CoreSELFie.com has 6 free resources that have been shown, developed, channeled through me. I don't know why, but that's just part of my work to do here on the planet.
Yeah.
And it's my gift to the world to pay forward in terms of finding out who you really are, and then being able to align. We'll talk about that next week in terms of how do I align my life, and how do I celebrate when I find myself aligned with who I was created to be. So
Yeah, I think that's so powerful, Peter, right? You know, I know for myself on my journey, as I have gotten clearer and clearer about the population with whom I want to be working, and I tend to work with people that are looking to take a deeper dive. And
Yeah.
I tend to not be the coach for those that are 4-6 sessions and get in, get out. I do like that deeper dive. That's where my passion lies.
Yeah.
And, you know, the coaching can't happen without that person showing up. And I'm a part of it in how I hold the space, the questions that I ask, the who I'm being in that process. And as I have come more and more into myself, I see the role I play in helping people to move forward in their lives, and allowing myself to, as you're talking about, you know, sharing my abilities, you know, being connected to my values and sharing that being with the world is powerful. And I'm surprised every time. I'm humbled every time that I'm able to see that and acknowledge that, or have myself reflected back to me by my clients. It's an amazing thing. And talk about fulfillment, talk about joy, talk about self-mastery in certain ways. And I've got a long way to go still, right? I don't know that we ever arrive, but there are moments. I'm seeing moments, and that's a gift, both to myself and to others. I say quietly, but I do believe it's a gift outward. And yeah, you couldn't be more spot on with that, I think.
Thank you. Yeah, and thank you for being that model of that. This is not an exercise of being hubris. This is one of being incredibly humble in terms of, and I've said this before in this venue, Tuesdays with Peter, of I'm humbled by the fact that my God, my creator, put these things inside of me and allow me to do the work that I'm here to do. It's like, what were you thinking? Bestow this upon, you know, this lad. And it is amazingly an exercise of humility that I go about the work that has been entrusted to me.
Yes.
And I hear you very much in that. Am I perfect? No. Is there still some more mastery? Yeah. But there are moments where my gifts have supported another human being in a life-changing manner.
Yes. Yes. And there's nothing like it. There's nothing like it. Yeah.
That's the epitome of professional coaching. It really is. And so that's why the world is so in need of those of us that are called to this work.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. I don't want to let it go by. You also talked quite eloquently about this is my role as a professional coach. I do not do therapy. I work with, hand in hand in some cases, with a professional therapist, because they are trained to do different work, and I am not trained to do their work. And so I love the distinction. I love the collaboration. For all of you that are listening in that are coaches or therapists for that matter, we're in 2 different lanes. We have a common goal of supporting a human being to be a better human being, you know, a healthier human being. But I am not trained, and I tell all the coaches that I've trained, I am not training you to be a therapist. That's not the work that we do. And I have an ethical obligation to refer out when a client may need to go back and do some deeper work about things that were put there or they were abused in some form or fashion that I'm not prepared to work with.
Yeah.
So thank you for that. And thank you for that clarity.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, I describe it to my clients. My husband and boys are scuba divers, and I'm the snorkeler in the family, right? So I say, I don't like to be underwater like that. I want the air from up above. And I say that, you know, therapy is more like scuba diving. You put that tank on, you dive down, and you stay there. And you're really digging around. You're looking in great detail at things that are deep. Whereas coaching, to me, sometimes there's value in reaching back. You know, where did that come from? What's that belief tied to? Sometimes a little bit of understanding, I think, can be really helpful for context, and sometimes to help with sort of getting our coattails unstuck. And so I say, take a deep breath. We dive down, take a quick look around, see what is of service to us that we can bring up, understand, and how will that facilitate our forward motion, right? And understanding where we need to go. So yeah, and it really, you know, I think to your point as well, like there are certain mental health issues, like, you know, generalized anxiety disorder. There are all sorts of things that people are struggling with that I am not the expert in, and it would be inappropriate for me to attempt to act as an expert. You know, I know my expertise, and I think it's super important to stay in our lane.
Yeah, thank you for that. And thank you for being a model of that and bringing voice to that today. So I know there's a lot of coaches that listen in on this afterwards, and it's a great reminder. Yeah. I want to open it up to questions from our audience that are here inside the privacy of the Zoom room. And so I see Carol Sue have made a couple of comments in the chat box along the way. Sue, do you want to pick, if you're willing to have your video open or have a question or a comment on what you've heard today that touches you? Would love to hear your voice.
Oops. Are you talking to me, Peter?
Carol, yeah.
Oh, okay, sorry. The one I was actually writing in the chat, and it's so tedious when I'm writing on a phone. So I'm so glad for the opportunity to say it, because I was just about to push send, and I will send it just so it's in there.
Okay.
And I just finished Dr. Sue Morter's workshop this weekend. And is anybody familiar with Dr. Sue Morter?
Not offhand, but go ahead.
Well, she does the bioenergetic work that her father began in the 70s. And it's really, which I did in the 70s as a counselor. You know, I was trained in it, and I'm wondering if I knew her father back then. It's kind of exciting.
Yeah.
But it's really about getting at the emotions, because all disease and discomfort and disconnect comes from our emotions first, and then works out into the physical. Even though it starts out in the mental body, comes into the, you know, emotional, and then the etheric, and then into the body. But the core is emotions, and that can be changed, and that affects our biosphere, and you know, our Taurus energy field. And by breathing into it, simply doing central breathing in from our feet, out through our head, in through our head, down to our feet, and then breathing out from the center, and then, you know, in all directions, and then back in, and doing simple little exercises. You don't even have to know exactly what the core issue is, but eventually it aligns. It aligns. And so really that I would recommend that with any therapy and with any coaching, it goes right along with it. That's all.
This is a mechanism or a practice that allows the individual to get centered, is what bottom line, and back into their core is what I'm hearing. Is that accurate?
Well, it goes way beyond. No, sorry, it goes way beyond that. It actually changes the way they feel, the decisions they made about themselves. I mean, it really goes to the core and heals. It heals, because when you heal at the emotional level, the work we do neuromodulation technique and Nambudra allergy elimination technique. We do all these things where we're working at doing energy medicine, and we're working, we don't work on the symptoms, we work on the cause. And we always work with the emotions because the emotions are always the cause. And we see that disease prioritizes. So when we fix one thing, the next thing comes up because pain is what tells us what the priority is. It never occurred to me until this weekend that emotions are what prioritize. It's the emotions that prioritize that then make the pain to give us the clue that there's an issue. So you can just work with the emotions directly. And as you cure one, the next one comes up because it prioritizes. So it's actually working at the core of the cause.
Beautiful.
Yeah. You know, I would add to that something that I have learned is, you know, even before the feelings, thoughts lead to feelings. And if we can, you know, be more conscious of the way our thought patterns are working, the things we're thinking about, the way we're viewing things, perspectives, what we're using as points of reference can be part of that chain of events, you know, that you're talking about feelings to pain. And I find that to be really powerful for me. Not what you were thinking?
Yes, and our thoughts are going to go right to where our feelings have set up the patterns. I mean, our emotions have set up the patterns. So our thoughts are going to fall right into those patterns, and it's not going to make a difference until you change the pattern.
Yeah, it's getting to the root of it. It's getting, and the emotion is a root, and and I love the prioritization concept. I'm not sure I've kind of articulated it that way, but it's like the biggest issue comes up first. It's like
exactly
the one that's screaming at me is going to get the attention, or ought to get the attention, and then once that's resolved or dissipated, then the next one comes up.
Well, it's the squeaky wheel gets the grease.
Yeah. It makes perfect sense that the body would, the body, mind, soul would work in continuity with that. Love it.
Well, and I'll give you an example. My mother-in-law had, she was supposed to have an operation on her shoulder, but it was so painful. The doctor said, no, you can't have it. And so my husband called her. We do this remotely. And Sue teaches how to do this remotely as well. No. And because we're all one energy field, and that's joy. It's love. And love is what heals. So when you're breathing in, you breathe love to these areas. It's that simple. But so he called his mom and said, well, he worked on her shoulder. And then the next thing that came up was, well, she had a phantom pain in her leg because she was missing a leg. So then he worked on that. That went away. Her migraine habits, then that came up. This is all like within a day, each day, a new thing came up.
Wow.
Then the next thing came up was 45 years prior, she'd broken her tailbone.
Ooh.
And all of a sudden her tailbone hurt. But that had always been there, but there were these other priorities that took place first.
Understood.
So then it came up. And so then he worked with that. Now, of course, he works with the emotional component with each one of those as well.
Yeah.
And that's why the work that we do works so well, is because and you don't really even have to know what it is, but we can get right to the emotion through muscle testing. And this is what Sue does. You muscle test to see what's going on, but we can get to it even down into the womb and before that as well.
Yeah. Deep work, deep work. Love muscle testing,
Very
kinesiology, been an advocate and practitioner of that for 30 years. Sue.
Me too.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for bringing your voice into the session today. I see Charles.
You can thank Charles for that.
All right, we'll bring Charles right now. Thank you, Charles.
Or you can blame me. Carol Sue is a walking encyclopedia of everything useful on planet Earth and beyond.
I can tell.
Through Humanity Rising. And I mentioned in the chat there yesterday that anyone who would care about anything should join us here. Karen, thank you very much. I enjoyed the reference to the scuba diving in terms of the differentiation between coaching and therapy. And I've been highly motivated as you were talking about your work with women. I was thinking about how can we possibly get CoreSELFie and all that this entails to children. You know, the Winnie the Pooh series for the CoreSELFie inspired learning, self-learning model. So I'm seeing Louise Hay channeling her and Florence Scovel-Shinn in the game of life and how to play it. And CoreSELFie for children at Humanity Rising, Marilyn King, pentathlon, whom I met because of the work she was doing with youth in Oakland. She would help them create my ideal image. And she's working with Oakland, mostly African-American, mostly boys. So their ideal image was almost always professional sports. And so the success map was a track. You know, who are my coaches? What are the hurdles? Who are my cheerleaders going to be? So I'm thinking, how can we adapt something like that to CoreSELFie? Because where do we ever get introduced to the concept? Duh, you may have a core self, a true self, a divine self, some core values. Let's figure them out. So as a self-appointed co-ambassador of CoreSELFie, along with Vivek and Sunny and a few other people here regularly, I'm going to be continuing that line of thought. And you can blame it on Karen for, sharing the little awesome work that she's doing. And Karen, I'd love to see the rest of your self-portrait if you could scan up sometime and let us see the head. Thank you.
Are you ready? This is a powerful woman.
There she is.
It's Wonder
Yep.
Woman.
Wonder Woman. I
Wonder
got
Woman.
it. I got it.
Yes. Yes.
Dazzling.
So, but
Positively brilliant.
I love the way you say self-portrait. I'll take that. Thank you.
Yeah. So, thank you.
Yeah, and you know what? And from your mouth to God's ears, right? If we only had the inspired learning model in our education system, what a different world it would be. Which is why it was so pointed for me to join Peter in my training. When I did part one, I just, granted I was in my first trimester, so I was a little hormonal, but I was so moved. I mean, what a gift to be able to learn and just to be in that space. It was so foreign to me, so incredibly foreign to me. And I wish I've done the best I can to have an inspired learning environment here in the home. And again, another thing that requires effort. Right. When we're emotionally involved with our children and, it's a lot of peeling away, shedding of expectation and judgment and wanting the best for our kid, all these things. So it really does require effort. I appreciate the highlight. And I would love to see more of that inspired learning model throughout the world, especially in the classroom.
Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Thank
Yeah.
you. Sunny, you've been absorbing all of this, and anything that you'd like to share? What have you been touched by? What does it bring to mind for you?
Yeah, so great articulation was Karen. So thank you so much, because I think the way you explain it is very understandable. And again, I love that scuba diving analogy, especially for therapy. So it was really great. I have a question, Peter. Actually, I was wondering, and looking at how you describe that typewriter story, or you generally find out that your values are not in sync, or you're not exhibiting all of them, and then you do the work. What is your take on or helping clients to see it more proactively, that they're living or taking those decisions along with most of their values, rather than come later and repent on it? Because I think even with Peter's life, it was like 35 years I spent, and then I came to this. But I'm sure day-to-day living, we kind of are just working on things which are in the past, or where we know we have done something wrong, we feel that body showing some signs. But what is a proactive way of really taking those values, and anything which you have done with your clients to help them in that direction?
Well, I'll approach it from two aspects. One is what I do, and what I can support my client to do is kind of a secondary aspect to it. But number one is to focus on what is working. And that's one of my major principles in inspired learning or in coaching. And so when I see a client get excited or when I'm excited about whatever's going on, I'll often take a look and go back to my core values in that place of excitement and go, oh, that's why I feel so good. That's why I feel so excited. That's why I feel so alive. Because creative was active in that, my way of being. Free to express was in my way of being in that situation. Connected was also present. And so it reinforces that when I am feeling really great about myself, and kind of going back to Carol's comment about the emotional part of it, more from the healthy part as opposed to the what needs to be healed part. Emotions are a huge spectrum of this isn't working and it's painful, to wow, I love my life. I love who I've become or come back to be, my original self. And so I take that and it reinforces the ability for me to actively choose, consciously choose the alignment with my core values. That's why this is so powerful, such powerful work. My values do not change over my lifetime. I believe that. What does change is the circumstances for today is different than it was yesterday and it will be tomorrow. There's the continuing stream of things that happen in my life with me, to me, around me. And I get to choose then, who do I want to be in relationship with this. So that's a continuous process for me. And the same thing when my clients, when I see them jubilant about their presentation, they have a successful closing of a deal, celebrating their child's graduation, whatever's going on in that client's life is. So if you were to take a look at your values, which of your values were present at graduation, at the close of the big deal, at losing 10 pounds, at, again, whatever they've talked about, their topic, and they go, oh my God, that's why I felt so really good. I felt because I was fully there. I was fully present. I was being myself, my original self, core self. And that's why it felt so good. That's why my emotions were being just amped up. Now, the opposite is also true. I feel lousy about this relationship. I am just sick and tired of being sick and tired. I have put up with him, her, them, they long enough. Wow. So what values are missing for you? Oh my God. Yeah, I'm not being this. I'm not being this. I'm not being this. I'm not, because the way they feel is not about the other person. If the other person says you are green and I hate green people, it's like, what are you talking about? Right? I'm a black guy. I'm a brown guy. I'm a white woman. I'm a whatever. But it's like, it's irrelevant. Maybe not to them, but to me, it's like, there's a great book, you know, your opinion has nothing to do with me. It's none of my business. But to be there, I have to be solidly in terms of who I am as opposed to who they want me to be. So that can work both ways. So I ask them what's missing, what values would be missing, or what, better yet, what values might you add to this relationship to make it better? Or, and it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to heal the relationship or solve the issues in there, but it will solve it for my client. I need to withdraw to honor myself. Okay, so what would that look like? It's not my work to do. It's not for me to go, well, God damn, it's about time. Right? Even though that might be going on in my little brain up here, it's like, so what's the next step for you then? What would that look like? How would you go about doing that? How would you honor yourself? How would you be able to live your core values, since that's what we're talking about specifically today? what would support you to live those core values as you move forward in this relationship or move out of this relationship. But this is a daily thing. This is not, I check in once a year on my birthday and say, okay, so Peter, how you doing about living your core value? That's not the way it works for me. As Karen said earlier, this is an ongoing process, and it's not even a journey to perfection. It's a journey to fulfillment. Am I feeling fulfilled? Am I doing my life's work today? Or I'm denying myself and those that I'm here to support by, shrinking, by trying to fit into the mold of what, 74-year-old Caucasian American male is supposed to be like at, this stage of life. Throw that one out the window. So what did you hear in that, Sonny, that made any sense at all to you?
No, it does. So both approaches. The second one, generally, obviously, the clients you ask in the session, which is not working. But the first approach is also good, especially for my own self, that when I am observant of, something which I am at peace with, or, what is really working, and look at it from a value perspective. And I think even what I realize is that if I'm not using my talents, I will have an issue with my values. So I think it's interrelated, that the fruits feed the roots in some way, but I have to think on that.
Yeah, I mean, we're just identifying core values today, but it's the same thing would be true with natural gifts and talents. The same thing would be true with life purpose. And so it's a bundle for me. It's just kind of like it's like a rope that has 3 twine, strings that go through it. Core values, life purpose, natural gifts and talents are all like a big internal innate bundle for me. And so where am I off course? If it's a way of being, I typically go to the values. If it's a way of doing, then I go to my core strengths or the client's core strengths. And if it's a way of, am I doing what I'm supposed to be doing in terms of contributing to my environment, to my world? Then it's a matter of a life purpose. Maybe that needs an adjustment. So it's all of the above. So thanks for highlighting that, Sonny. Appreciate it. All right. Vivek. We've got, we're out of time. Sorry, Vivek. I love you, Vivek. You know I do. Karen, I'm going to come back to you. And
That must be someone's core issue.
I'm going to give you the last word, Karen. What would you like to say in closing?
Do you, be you. It's enough. It's what the world needs. It's a gift to all of us, and we can't wait to see you.
Wow. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Amen. Amen.
Hey, women.
A human, a sentient being.
Yeah. And I think, Peter, I just want to say thank you so much for having me. It's a delight to be with you. It's just a delight to be reminded. Just being in your presence reminds me of just all the things that you shared, that you taught. There's a coming home for me, and such a gift to me today. So thank you so much. And a pleasure to be with all of you, of course. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Karen. With that, I say goodbye. Namaste. We'll see you here next week. Bye for now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is this only on Tuesdays?
Tuesday at 10 o'clock USA Eastern. Love to have you back, Carol.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.